I found myself in a tomb quite recently, a tomb of some significant stress and anxiety. Stress has this deadly habit of draining us of our lives, turning our focus inward, where we become preoccupied with our own self-interest, our own pettiness and problems, many of which often aren't even real, they're imagined. And in the process of this, stress has a way of suffocating our compassion and our empathy for other people. So at the beginning of Lent, when Pope Francis challenged us all to give up our indifference to the suffering of the poor, I knew he was talking to me. I didn't want to admit it at first, of course, we never do. But deep in the stillness of my own soul, where I can't lie to myself, I knew that the Holy Father was playing the role of Christ to my role as Lazarus and saying, "Wake up, snap out of it, come alive, come out, get to work." There are so many things that drain the life from us, so many things that deaden us. Ego and pride, greed, wrath, envy. We could go through all 7 of the deadly sins, I suppose. And all of them leave us in this tomb of indifference. They all take us to a place where compassion dies. And we are left looking out for ourselves, indifferent to the suffering of the poor. For the past decade and a half, events such as global terrorism, mass shootings, gun violence, have taken us to a place where we have replaced compassion with fear and mercy with self-protection in a way that has left us indifferent, as Pope Francis observed, indifferent to the suffering of the poor, indifferent to the suffering of refugees, indifferent to immigrant children, indifferent perhaps to the earth itself, God's creation that sustains our lives. When we go to these tombs of indifference, we lose something so important to humanity. We lose our lives in so many ways. $1.3 million children. 1.3 million children will suffer severe malnutrition in 2017 as a direct result of climate change. Do we care? Do we really care? Or is that just a number? At least 900,000, probably more, but at least 900,000 American women will feel so alone, lost, and fearful that they will believe abortion is their best path forward. Do we care? Do we really care about these women and these children, or is it just a number? 1,300 children, 1,300 kids will be homeless this year in Brown County. No place to put down roots, no bed of their own, no place to be raised and call home. Do we care? Do we really care? Or is it just a number? You see, when we turn our focus inward, so concerned about our own security and well-being, that we become indifferent toward the suffering of others, we deaden and diminish our own humanity. Wake up, Jesus calls to us. Wake up! Snap out of it! Look alive! Come out! Let the Spirit fill you with life and radiate into the world. This story of Lazarus has three main roles. The first is Lazarus himself, and how often in our lives are we Lazarus? Deadened in the tomb. We might be quasi-alive, going through the motions, but our spirits have died because we are indifferent and we don't care. How often are we Lazarus? How often are we Mary and Martha? So overwhelmed with the heaviness of it all that we're paralyzed. We don't know what to do. We feel helpless. We call out help. But how often are we called, invited, challenged to be the Christ to one another, to show up with a loving heart and call out to each other, wake up, fill yourself with life and love, let your heart beat with compassion, let your blood pulse with empathy, and let the world see in the sparkle of your eyes the hope and the glory of the rising sun.